Today begins the most important fall camp in Ole Miss football history.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I am your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's show, Peter Burns from the SEC Network has circled Austin Simmons as his breakout pick for this season. We'll tell you why that could be a little bit of a game changer for this offense. We also look at another top prospect set to announce on August 2nd. Could Ole Miss land this potential difference maker? We'll talk all about that as well. But first, we're diving into a big day for the Rebels as fall camp officially kicks off. We break down why this camp is crucial for Lane Kiffin and how it could be the spark that finally pushes Ole Miss over the hump in 2025. If the Rebels take that next step, it starts right here, right now. All of this and more right now on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is, and that is the most fun way to follow Ole Miss sports. Do us a favor and like, subscribe, and comment on the video. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you on Locked On. Pretty great stuff indeed. So the wait is over. Fall camp is finally here, and the Ole Miss Rebels are going to hit the field for their first acclimation days. Remember, whenever you start practicing, there's going to be like 2 days in just helmets and then T-shirts and shorts. And then on the third day, the third practice, you can come out there in shells, which is shoulder pads and a helmet. You can't do full pads until 5 days after you start practice. That's called the acclimation period. That's been going on since the Stone Ages, whenever I was the video coordinator for the Ole Miss football team. This is always a weird time of year. Notice it's hot and it's steamy, all of that. You're going to have the Ole Miss video personnel putting their cameras outside for like 2 and 3 hours before practice starts so they don't fog up and condensation doesn't build in. That doesn't mean that much, but it is an interesting thing. Every time fall camp starts, I immediately go there because if you forget to do that, you will ruin your entire day at practice. Absolutely will. But this is the most important football camp, fall camp for the Ole Miss Rebels in their history, honestly. And that is because of what happened a year ago, or more importantly, what was supposed to happen a year ago. Ole Miss had potentially the second best, or maybe even the first best roster in all of college football. They did not make the college football playoff even with that. And if you look at the draft picks and all of that stuff, it kind of checks out of what's going on. And because of that, they assume that Ole Miss is going to fall off because you lost players like Jackson Dart. You lost players like Trey Harris, like Walter Nolan, like Princely Amon Mielen, like Chris Paul, like Trey Washington, like Trey Amos. Everybody assumes that Ole Miss will not be able to replace those, even though during the same time that was going on, yes, Ole Miss got those players, but the team wasn't just those players. The talent over the whole roster grew as well. Ole Miss fans know that. The ball knower football fans know that. But questions are going to come down about Ole Miss taking a step back because they lost so much talent. Everybody talks about it. There will be comments on this video about Ole Miss taking a step back. I think there's some unknowns on this year's roster, some absolute unknowns. So I'm going to make the jump to assume that things work out where it comes to Ole Miss football. That's just the type of person I am. It works until it doesn't. There's certain people that it doesn't work until it does. It's the whole glass half full, glass half empty thing. Ole Miss lost a quarterback, replaced them with potentially the most talented quarterback that Lane Kiffin has ever had in Austin Simmons. an absolute rifle for a gun, 6'5", can run a 4.5 40, 4.4 40. This football season is set up for Austin Simmons to shine. And in the second segment, we're going to we're going to talk about Peter Burns saying that Austin Simmons is his pick as a breakout quarterback. But it's not just that. There are former number one players in the state of Mississippi, like Cam Franklin, who everybody assumes he's going to take a step this year. This is his year. You have Suntarine Perkins, who took a step a year ago. And then the new freshman coming in is Caleb Cunningham, the number one player in the state of Mississippi, that you know is ready to go. I heard he was clocked at practice in the summer at 21 miles an hour. He can legitimately run. He has an A.J. Brown-esque body. There is a lot of pieces in place for this Ole Miss Rebel team. Now, there's some question marks, but that's what this fall camp is for. That is why this fall camp is so important. That is why this is massive for the next step for Ole Miss. Because if Ole Miss were to win 8 games this year and take a step back, because 8 games would be taking a step back over where they should have finished last year. Last year, they had a 12-0 roster, and they went 9-3 with it. I have basically made no qualms about that. But if Ole Miss wins 8 games this year, they're going to say, see, I told you. Little Ole Miss is just little old Ole Miss. But if Ole Miss can win 9 or 10 games again for the 4th time in 5 years, you will see a program that is on the rise, and momentum will gain exponentially over that time. It will start to look real similar to where the Clemson Tigers were in 2012, 2013, that period of time, to where all that is left is for Ole Miss to just get over the hump. And if Ole Miss makes a playoff run in 2025, which they absolutely can do, look at all the charts and everything on it, it is going to be because of the next 3 weeks of fall camp. Austin Simmons will have control of the offense. Players like Shakai Mills-Knight and Caleb Cunningham and Andrew Maddox and Devin Harper and Winston Watkins and all the freshmen that came in, they get to make their stamp of what's going on. I truly think that Winnie Watkins has a legit chance to be the punt returner on this roster. There are certain questions that everybody has. What does the offensive line look like? Was Ole Miss's offensive line last year the problem, or was it the running back, or was it both? There's a lot of questions that have to be answered over the next 4 weeks. And what is at stake is only the standing of the program around Ole Miss that we all love. Ole Miss has to win 9 or 10 games this year. It doesn't, hey, let's do the best we can and let the chips fall where they may. No, Ole Miss needs to do that for the momentum that they have built. Whenever people that now are taking Ole Miss's phone calls that before would not, absolutely, it will be so quick, the moment to where the media and everybody else buries Ole Miss. They're trying. They're desperate to do it. But this fall camp and Ole Miss coming together with the weapons that Austin Simmons and the wide receivers and the tight ends, if the offensive line is just average, this offense will be the best offense potentially in the Southeastern Conference. Defensively, front seven is going to be fantastic. I think Cam Franklin and Suntarine Perkins, those guys are going to be monsters on defense. The back part of the defense is the question mark. The Wynette Williams coming in, Sage Ryan. We talked about Jalen Braxton potentially moving to safety today at the start of college football season. There are some questions with this team. Now, I assume that Pete Golding and Lane Kiffin and everybody are going to figure it out. And those guys make way too much money for me to give them an extended leash. If they mess up, I'm absolutely going to say they're messing up. That's the way this works. But the root is there for Ole Miss football to be very, very good in 2025. Look at the schedule this season. They have Georgia State. They have Kentucky at Kentucky. Arkansas at home, Tulane at home, Washington State at home, LSU at home, at Georgia, at Oklahoma, South Carolina at home, the Citadel at home, Florida at home, and at Mississippi State. You go on the road to the number 15 team in the SEC and the number 16 team in the SEC. That's about as good as you could hope for. You have 9 games in the state of Mississippi. The at Georgia and the at Oklahoma is going to be really tough. Yes, it absolutely is. But this schedule lines up in a way that you can be successful this year. I think the 2026 team is going to be very, very good. No doubt. It's going to be like the 2024 team was supposed to be. Austin Simmons with a year under his belt, a lot of underclassmen aged up. You're going to see this team transform even more. But I think this year in 2025, 10-2 is absolutely attainable. The playoff is absolutely attainable. The reputation and standing of your program is absolutely attainable. It is going to be important for Ole Miss in this fall camp to answer questions, to avoid injuries, to avoid the pitfalls that come along the way whenever you're getting ready for Georgia State, at Kentucky, and Arkansas at home. It's a little bit quicker this year, but this fall camp today, right now, is one of the most important fall camps in the entire country and the most important fall camp of Ole Miss. So that should be pretty interesting indeed, really. All right, a member of the national media has singled out Austin Simmons as his breakout performer for the upcoming season. Find out who said it and why next. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, of course, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, there is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest. Some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Once I played a course in Franklin, Tennessee, I think it was called Forest Crossing, and they had a green up that was so high that you couldn't even see the flag up there. But I had a secret weapon in my bag, a steep angled wedge built just for this shot. Anyway, the one chance that I got to use that club correctly, I hold it out on that shot, and it obviously didn't see anything when it hit the green because it was above my head. But my friends at Locked On Vandy, Corey Burton, said that it actually went in. Golf is all about good times with good people, good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best part of your clubhouse to go without all of the chasing down of the bev cart. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive $20 off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need and the power to get through. Order the transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. It's the first day of fall camp, and it would not be very smart of me to not talk about Austin Simmons today and something I saw on the Rebel Walk, which the Rebel Walk, if you have the opportunity to check out free information on the Ole Miss Rebels, the Rebel Walk is your place to check out. Go check out Evie and the team over at the Rebel Walk. They do a fantastic job. They did this story on Peter Burns on That SEC podcast. I know that's a lot talking about, but Peter Burns on That SEC podcast was asked which offensive player is primed to break out this season. Who will be the next breakout star at quarterback in the SEC? Peter Burns at SEC Network says, keep an eye on Austin Simmons, 19 years old, and reminds me of talking with Tua Tagovailoa. Now, personally, I am aware that that comparison and that comp bothers Austin because he's a left-handed quarterback. He wears number 13. he kind of looks similar to that. It's really easy. One of the most low-hanging fruits you can do is compare him to Tua Tagovailoa. But Austin is not Tua, talent-wise. He might remind you of that, but he is a different style quarterback. He is honestly more like athletic runners than the Tua comparison throwing the football. Now, he can throw the football really well. He can. And last year, he was 19 of 32, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. It was one of those situations to where his redshirt freshman backup year was better than Eli Manning. It was better than Matt Corral. It was better than most quarterbacks that have come through Ole Miss because he's an extremely talented player. But Peter Burns saying that is interesting, and I've been saying that for roughly about 6 months, if we're going to be honest about it. I have been saying this over and over and over again because he is a legit quarterback coming into the system. Everybody's talking about, well, how are you going to replace Jackson Dart? You're going to replace him with Austin Simmons. Is he going to be better? Probably not at the beginning, but he is going to be different. And some of the things that Austin does well has a real chance to be better than it was a year ago. Jackson was obsessed with the duck and chuck. Throw the ball down the field to Trey Harris. I'm sure he's down there somewhere. He led college football in completion yards per attempt last season. Austin Simmons is not like that. Austin Simmons is somebody that, when you look at his processing ability and what has happened, he graduated high school 2 years early. He already has his undergrad degree at Ole Miss. His processing ability is off the chart. You saw that in the Georgia game. That is one of the quick takeaways of the Georgia game, if we're going to be honest about it, was the quick passes to Caden Lee. They came out throwing the football, and it was a yucky day. If everybody remembers, it was drizzling rain over the course of the whole afternoon. Austin Simmons came into that game cold with a quarterback that just threw an interception that led to the first touchdown by the Georgia Bulldogs. We have all seen that football game. Just didn't work out. Ole Miss lost 35-7, yada, 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 something like that. No. Austin Simmons walked in there. Lane Kiffin had the confidence in this young quarterback to let it rip in his drive. It wasn't just hand it off 3 times and see what was up. It was about throwing the ball downfield. And the one pass that was tipped that went to Daquan Wright, it was going to be completed or anything. It was never going to be intercepted. Just because somebody touches it doesn't mean it's going to be intercepted. It was never going to be intercepted. But Austin Simmons made pass after pass, getting more and more confident to go down the field against one of the better defenses in the entire SEC, and Ole Miss ended up coming back and winning that game. Austin Simmons, if those remember, he was my locked on Ole Miss player of the game because of that drive. Everybody left impressed after seeing that. And now, after SEC Media Days, everybody's leaving even more impressed because he is an unbelievably impressive dude with a really cool story that if John Rice Plumlee plays piano or Josh Dobbs builds rocket ships or anything like that becomes a storyline during the season, Austin Simmons graduating college should be right up in there. And he starts with the Georgia State Panthers. Not a particularly great team, but they are going to present a challenge, more so than last season when Ole Miss opened up with the Furman Paladins. This year, Ole Miss opens up with the Georgia State Panthers. Then they go on the road at Kentucky. Kentucky might be the number 16 team in the entire league, but it is still at Kentucky. So this year, because it means a little bit more, we talked about in the first segment how this is likely the most important fall camp in Ole Miss history. Also, the schedule lines up in a way that is going to make fall camp very important. Austin has full control of this team. He has set up leadership-wise. He's set it up throwing-wise. He's got his players. He's doing what he needs to do. Now, Austin needs to take that next step and do it on the field. I think by the end of September, after the LSU game, he is going to become a household name and likely be in the Heisman conversation after that game. Don't take my word for it, but that is kind of what's going on here. So we'll see exactly what's going on. Anyway, in our final segment, Deuce Geralds isn't the only big name that is set to commit this weekend. We'll tell you exactly who else to watch for next. All right, we spent yesterday talking about Deuce Geralds and Jace Matthews. Those are two of the bigger fish on the entire board. Jace Matthews is from the coast, from Greene County in Mississippi. Deuce Geralds is from Georgia. Ole Miss got a commitment over the weekend from Nasir NASCAR McCoy, but that is what we talked about yesterday in recruiting visit. But those players, including Deuce Geralds, is not the only one that is announcing on August 2nd. There's a player that has everybody's attention going into this weekend. Deuce Geralds might get the headlines, and it is a coin flip at the moment. He is crystal balled or RPM'd or whatever that's called by Steve Wiltfong to Oregon. So we have to file that away as something that happened. Well, I just say Oregon's probably leading if that is the case. But I talked to the Florida football scout, Brian Smith, who said that it was a coin flip where Deuce was going to end up. It could be a very big day potentially for the Ole Miss Rebels, especially now that the collectives have been unshackled a little bit. The other player is Jace Matthews. He's somebody that was LSU. They kind of turned his head a little bit. Auburn is getting back into the race with Jace now that the collectives has come back in, but Ole Miss is on the list. He's a visit there as well. Over the next 2 weeks, this class will either be good or it will be great. It will either be a good recruiting class or an elite recruiting class. And that is because of players like Deuce Geralds and Jace Matthews. There's one player that is set to commit on Saturday that we probably all need to keep an eye on. He's a linebacker out of Grayson High School in Georgia. And yes, boys and girls, that is where Robert Kendichi and Denzel Kendichi played their high school football. He is ranked in the top 250 or the top 300, I should say, on ESPN. He's a 4-star player. He's a 4-star on 247, and he is a 3-star on Rivals. Consensus-wise, he is a 4-star top 250-ish level player. He's number 20 linebacker in the country, number 30 player in the entire state of Georgia. And let me tell you something right now. Ole Miss as a staff, Pete Golding as a staff, very impressed with what Ant Davis brings to the table. When you look at what he can do, and his highlights are fantastic, explosive. He's such a twitchy athlete. He might be a little bit undersized, but that is nothing that a college training table won't take care of. He is somebody that makes play after play after play, sideline to sideline, intercepting the ball in coverage. He is a full-fledged linebacker that can do all of the stuff. He primarily is playing outside backer for his high school. I'm assuming something like secondary linebacker, one of the Rory Johnson type players lining up on defense. I think that is his future at Ole Miss. But Pete Golding and Chris Kiffin, who is an assistant linebackers coach for this season, makes it really interesting. They like Ant Davis, so much so that they didn't necessarily pressure other linebackers that were in of what's going on. They weren't overly concerned with what they were doing. Ant Davis is a really, really good football player. And if Ole Miss were to land Deuce Geralds and Ant Davis on Saturday, I think that would be grounds for basically a parade, if we're going to be honest about it. It would be one of the larger days for Ole Miss's defense in a very long time. So we'll see what happens. Ant Davis, I know he is wanted. It's going to be Ole Miss and Michigan. I think those are the two that are standing out, but Auburn and Alabama is also on the list. So we'll see what's going on. This is a highly thought of, highly recruited player, and August 2nd, he will make his decision. After his official visit to Ole Miss and everything, Ole Miss got a little bit of a bump, and it hasn't necessarily subsided. And now all of a sudden, Michigan has kind of gotten into the game, but I don't think they've overtaken Ole Miss. I think there should be some pretty good news for the good guys unless something happens in this modern state of recruiting. We'll see how it goes. So, thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives. That's why we're the front door of Ole Miss sports. If you don't believe me, Google Ole Miss podcast and see how much the Locked On Ole Miss podcast is there. Anybody searching for Ole Miss, we are their introduction for. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the show. It helps, and it is totally free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes in the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.